Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Thank you, Anuradha, for your kind words, and Atul too. And a warm welcome to all our participants this morning. When we talk of school self-evaluation, actually it begins from our individual natures also. Some of us continue to kind of look at everything we do. Like in our childhood, we had this habit of writing a diary, which was what exactly was it? It was self-reflection, and it was about self-critique, see where the gaps are, and how we would like to overcome those and improve ourselves. So it is actually a continuous process. So as we know that this self evaluation is actually a process or a function which is driven by the person when it comes to our personal self evaluation. But when we talk of a school and a school as a learning organization, so when we talk of the school, I mean by the school as a learning organization, it it's about an organizational process. Then it no longer stays with in the hands of one person or two people or somebody. It is a organic process of the school. And like Atulji mentioned, that I have been involved with the Middle East schools for a long time now. And the process of self evaluation was very new when I first joined this whole evaluation process. But we've seen the schools kind of take it up initially very reluctantly. Then, of course, the fear or a kind of a force from outside. But now we see that since they've got into this mode of self evaluation constantly, we see improvements happening in the school on a regular basis. We visit some of them on an annual basis and we see the changes, the transformation that is happening. And so I really believe that it is a very effective process. This is my experience, which I'm sharing, is that the process of self evaluation is very effective, and that is what makes the schools also effective. So actually, to be an effective school, you have to be a learning organization, and in which everybody, the teachers, the senior managers, the leaders, everybody contributes, continues to be a learner. We look at learners generally in our systems, we look at learners only as students. Our students are our learners. But in an effective school, everybody is a learner, and they have to keep up with their subjects. They have to keep up with the new pedagogical practices. They have to keep up with the new mandatory or statutory laws that come in. And generally what we've seen in India so far, that we wait, most of the schools actually wait for some directive from the CBSE, and then we say, oh, the CBSE has told us to do it and let's do it. We really don't see how it impacts our system, the school, the learner, the student, the classroom. We really don't go into that because we've been told to do something. We just kind of do it as a process, as a task, not even as a process, as a task. But we need to be continuously upgrading ourselves. We don't have to wait for anybody to tell us what to do, because we are, if we consider ourselves to be effective schools, we continue to do reflection. So there are two established beliefs that we need to kind of go ahead with. These are established. I mean, I don't think any of us would differ on this. Is that first, that the school, the individual school, is the primary unit of improvement for school effectiveness. I cannot say that the whole system is effective, so I am by default effective in it. No, as a school, as an individual school, I have to be effective. I have to believe that I have to make the change. I have to deliver the best to my students. I have to have the best practices in my school, and that makes the school largely self-directing. So it has to be an internal invoking process rather than an external process. Self-evaluation in the schools, just a second. The self evaluation of schools can be a driving force in the process of organizational learning. If we want a learning organization, we want our children to learn, we want our teachers to learn, we want the leaders to learn. So the whole organization has to be a learning organization. And what do we need to learn? How do we need to learn? What needs to be done next? What do we need to leave behind? What changes we need to make? All this can come to us through self evaluation. A process in which, so I will quote, a process in which members detect error or anomaly or correct it by restructuring organizational theory of action. So, what I am emphasizing on the organizational theory of action, embedding the results of their inquiry in organizational maps and images. Now, this is a very high funda thing, but very simply put, we need to see what is going right, what is not going so right, what is going right, how can it be improved, and this has to be mapped across the organization, across the school. And self evaluation can help the schools in the detection and correction of these errors and anomalies. But it is not only about errors and anomalies. I will take it to the next level. It is about improvement. However good we may be, there is always scope for improvement. And self evaluation helps us to look at that scope of improvement. What are the purposes of self evaluation? In the Middle East, in the UK, in fact, it all started from the UK, where there is a very high stake of the school in terms of inspection. In UK, there is a model called the Ofsted model of inspection, where you have the Her Majesty's inspectors coming into the school annually or sometimes even more often to see what is happening in the school. So is self-evaluation driving those schools only for inspection? Not really. Because, like we said earlier, the main purpose of self-evaluation is to raise standards and improve and have improvements in the school. It is also for the professional development of the teachers, of the leaders, and importantly, it is also about accountability. Who do we hold accountable for a certain deliverable? There are deliverables in the school. So, who do we hold accountable for that deliverable? Is that person performing as per expectations, or is he doing better? Is he moving ahead? He or she moving ahead? So, basically, building capacity to respond to and managing change. It is an ever changing environment. Like we say, the change is the only constant today in the world. Keeping this change in mind, are we getting our schools ready to respond to change or to manage change? Or also, I would say ahead of that, preparing ourselves for change, basically, building the capacity to be able to change with the changing times. Self-evaluation in schools should actually focus in three ways. The macro self-evaluation, which is basically the whole school evaluation, the big picture. We look at the big picture. What is the school today? How is it contributing to being part of a learning community? What is the effectiveness of the learning community of the school? That is the big picture that we need to evaluate in a school. Then we also have the means end self-evaluation, which means that how are our students progressing and achieving? Individuals, different cohorts of students, different groups, the gifted and talented, the laggers. I mean, I wouldn't call them laggers, maybe the people who take some time. Then we have the special needs. So are all cohorts of students moving ahead in their learning journey? Are they progressing? Are they achieving as per their potential? So this is very, very important to see. And then we have, in this self-evaluation, we work on strengthening the management plans. We look at the improvements that need in the leadership. We look at improvements that need for teachers development. And so there is a whole lot of this because we are managing the end. Here the self-evaluation focuses on the end. The end is the product that the school takes out. And when we look at student progress and achievement, we do not always just look at their marks. It's not about marks. It's the achievement all round development which is happening of the students. And of course, the micro level the micro level evaluation, which is again very, very important, which kind of just a minute, which kind of looks at the learning outcomes and most importantly, the quality of learning in the classrooms. It's not about whether the children have understood this content or they are able to apply this content. Basically, are they developing the learning skills that are required? Are they able to apply anything new that they learn into an unknown context? So basically, do they take responsibility for their learning? Are they self-driven learners? Is this happening? And this micro level self-evaluation again is very critical to our school system and for the self-evaluation in the schools. Then, so basically, the elements that self-evaluation should kind of focus on is basically of is the effectiveness of a learning community? Is the learning community of the school effective? All these are actually covered under those three heads that we just discussed. Is our learning community effective? Is the school improvement process working effectively, particularly in respect of the impact on the students' progress and achievement? Is the effectiveness of the learning actually taking place in the classrooms? The pedagogical practices, are these happening in our classrooms, or are our children achieving due to external interventions? Who takes the responsibility for the learning? Is the school taking? Are the tuitions taking? Are the parents taking? So basically, this helps us to identify that also. Very importantly, the relationships in the schools. Like Anuradha ma'am said in the beginning, that for any kind of self evaluation and improvement, effectiveness to take place in the school, it is very important to have positive and professional relationships in the school between the leadership and the management, between the leadership and the staff, between the individual departments or the faculties, within the classroom, between the teacher and the taught, the learner, between the learners themselves, because peer learning and peer assessment all drives towards self-evaluation, and the interface of the school with its local and national communities. Now, what do we mean by the local and the national communities, and what kind of interface? We do know that there is a lot of community work the schools focus on. All effective schools kind of focus a lot on community work. But it's not about that. Does the school meet the national aspirations? Does the school is the school sensitive to the needs of the local community? Does the school use the local resources to make it the base for student learning? Now, these kind of interfaces are also very important elements of self-evaluation. Now, there is a lot of difference between self-inspection and self-evaluation, and we should absolutely make it very clear. When we say self-inspection, that means I, as a school, will inspect myself. And when I say self-evaluation, it means that as a school, we will be evaluating ourselves. So in the first term, it is about a top-down approach, that the leader, the principal, the management, some one person in authority or a team in authority decides that we need to inspect our systems. Whereas the evaluation is a bottoms up, that everybody in the school kind of feeds into this, and then the data from this, actually the data that arises at the grassroots level, becomes the core for self-improvement and improvement planning in the long run. Inspection is a one-off event. Self-evaluation is a continuous process. So we are continuously evaluating ourselves. After every lesson, the teacher reflects on how the lesson goes. What could have happened better? What did not go well? How can I make this lesson better? Do I need to take a cohort of students again through another experience to ensure that they are learning well? So this kind of a continuous thinking is all important in self-evaluation. Inspection just provides a snapshot. So I've been part of inspection teams for a very long time. So it is like somebody coming from outside doing an inspection and giving you some feedback and going. But the school has to kind of develop an evolving picture by itself, and that is what the self-evaluation does. It is developing a picture. It offers an evolving picture. We were here at this point of time. In January, this cohort of students were at this point of learning, and by July we find them moving ahead, or they are stationary. So this is a continuously evolving picture. Inspection is time consuming. Evaluation is time saving. In what way is it time saving? Inspection, why is it time consuming? Because when an inspection team is coming into the school, The whole school wastes a lot of time in preparing and gearing up to meet the needs of the inspectors. But in self evaluation, because it is an integral part, it helps us to ensure that our students are learning better. And when they are learning better, obviously, we save time. Accountability focused, and this is improvement focused, based on a rigid framework. It is flexible and spontaneous. In the inspections, there is always a rigid framework, a standards framework, which the school has to meet. Whereas in self evaluation, the school can modify that framework and say that, okay, what the framework, what the standards framework says as very good may just be acceptable to me, or what the framework says about a week can be acceptable to me because I'm still in the evolving stage. And we will talk about the framework at a later point. And of course, inspection has a high risk because it kind of fixes or kind of hangs somebody by the head, whereas in self evaluation we take risk, we experiment, we try to evolve ourselves, and therefore it makes the whole process, the journey of the school, more enjoyable, and at the same time kind of a journey in which there are going to be ups and downs, there are going to be bumps, but we know that we have to reach a certain point by a certain time. The role of the standards framework, like I just mentioned to you, that the standards framework is very important because I'm going to just talk about it and then I will show you a glimpse of the standard framework in the next slide. Is that a standards framework like the Ofsted framework or the UAE inspection framework? It kind of gives you a complete detailed rubric of every element that the school will be inspected on. And the schools use this framework for self evaluation also. Now, let's have a look at this. It's just an exemplar that I'm sharing with you. Now, there are 6 levels at which the inspectors will be grading the schools, or the schools will be doing it as part of their self evaluation. Now, one criteria that I have taken up for sharing is the students' engagement in and responsibility for their own learning. Now, who better than the teachers can actually judge this? There are 6 levels: outstanding, very good, good, acceptable, weak, and very weak. Supposing a teacher of maths for grade 4 says that I feel that this is acceptable in my lessons, another teacher might say that it is weak for me. Now they have to sit and introspect, reflect, find strategies to make sure that if the whole cohort is moving up. And when we say the whole cohort moves up, it is about more than 75 to 80% children. When they move up, that we can say the cohort is moving up. Then at the next level, we have to find strategies to make sure that 20% who are not moving up, what is the reason for that they are not moving up? And this rubrics very clearly defines, it kind of exemplifies that what exactly we mean by outstanding. So the standards framework, I go back to the previous slide. The standards framework actually provides a guide on what is expected to be at a certain level. It's not that the outstanding that is defined here will stay as that forever. It is an evolving framework. The frameworks can keep changing. They can keep setting higher standards as the schools move up in the cohort. They're very similar to the rubrics that we develop in the schools also for assessing our students. When I look at the overall picture of school improvement has various aspects. Self-evaluation is the first step actually for school improvement. Why? Because unless we know what is wrong with ourselves, rather than somebody coming and telling us, then we begin the. But very often it starts with, honestly, it starts with inspection. Somebody from outside comes and tells us that this is not right in the school, or you are not following this, or your standards for this aspect are not up to the mark, or whatever. And then people start saying, okay, we have some key findings from the inspections, or the key findings may have come from the self-evaluation. So once we've identified those key areas, the school has to get into action planning. And action planning has to be smart planning. They have to be very, very goal oriented with measurable outcomes and timelines in which action planning has to be done by the school. Action is taken, the school has to continue to do internal review of the action plan. They are not doing self evaluation, but they are going to be doing the internal review of the action plan. Why do we need to do an internal review of the action plan? For the reason that are we actually moving? Are we actually implementing or trying to do what we have planned to do? After that, the school can do a self evaluation once again go back to the action plan, see where the gaps are. But better still, it is said that if the school can have a professional or a consultant review, I call it a friendly review. Get somebody from outside to come and review. And then, of course, countries as best practices, they have the annual inspections. So the inspectors also come and see your action plan. They don't see what you have done. They see your self evaluation, they see your action plan, they measure it against the standards, and then they say, yes, you are moving in the right direction. So, an inspection is not about a danda from external. All these best practices I'm talking of, the Ofsted model or the UAE model, in which, or the Singapore model, the IB model, where the inspectors just come and see that you have planned something and are you moving on that plan. It's not, there is no way in which they say that this is what you need to do. They just see whether you are moving on your own plan. Therefore, self evaluation becomes the milestone or the key aspect on which the schools will be continuously evolving. There is a rippling effect of self evaluation. Because self evaluation, yeah, any effective school will be student centric. There is no school in the world which can say that we are not student centric. We try to be student centric. And then from the student centered approach, we come on to the classroom where there is the pedagogical practices happening. And the classroom are not just the four walls of the classroom. They could be your playfield, they could be your labs, they could be your SUPW lessons, they could be community service lessons, whatever, because they're all places where students are learning or area spaces where students are learning. So all this then becomes your the pedagogical practices. Each department then does introspection. What is working? Where are the gaps? At which level are the gaps? What do we need to do? All this then feeds into the school's action plan. Some schools may focus more on academics, others may focus more on extracurricular activities, depending on the priorities of the school and the vision of that school. And of course, feeding into the community. And therefore, this rippling effect, which begins from the student centered classroom pedagogical practices and the learning skills that are being developed, it is important that the schools then become an organic part of the community. And that is most critical. The importance of time scales in self evaluation and review. We all like to make plans. Every new year, I think all of us make certain resolutions. But how many of us actually abide by it? Not really. So, but in a school, which is a professional domain, we need to have time scales in self evaluation and also the review of our self evaluation plans. We cannot say that that we will make sure that all our children know the textbook by the end of the year. How have we reviewed it? In no way. What we need to see is not just the marks that they are getting, their application skills, their self responsibility, their all round development, everything. And then there have to be people responsible for ensuring that these plans are happening in the school. They could be your department heads, they could be your section heads, there could be a vice principal responsible for something, the activity coordinator responsible for something else. But then the team has to sit together and review, and best is to review each other's departments, because if I review my own department all the time, I often do not see where the problem is. But in the school, when self-evaluation processes are in place, they use a lot of peer and buddy system. Like students also, we use peer reviews. Similarly, in a school, we use self-evaluation, the other HODs. If there are partner schools, if you are part of a chain of schools, a team from another school can come and do your review, and that also helps to take it further. Now, who are the actual participants of the school evaluation, school self-evaluation? Is it the leadership or stakeholder? We said that if a self-evaluation has to be bottoms up, everybody needs to be involved in self-evaluation. So even within the classroom, when a self-evaluation is happening, peer assessment and self-evaluation tools like KWL charts are very useful. But what do we do with the information that we get from this self-evaluation? That is critical for the school. A child knows that I have been able to do this or not been able to do it. But how does a teacher further process this with the child is very, very critical. Now, data, the use of data in self-evaluation. Now, this is a very, very content-heavy slide, so maybe we will go through it also in detail. That the use of data for self-evaluation is very critical. I'm not a very data-driven person myself. Atul is very good with data, I know. But I know that for certainly for any kind of monitoring, it cannot be any kind of monitoring or review cannot be based on my feeling, on my intuition. It has to be based on certain factual data. And data does not just mean numbers. It actually means it actually means by recording of any kind of portfolios, and from the portfolios you kind of put it into numbers so that we know where the children or the students are moving, and monitoring and interpreting current attainment data. Attainment data means exam data, trends over time, other performance indicators for key stages, subjects and groups of learners. I take it word by word. Current attainment data, which means the current exam data. Now, I'm going to compare the current exam data of one student with his previous data, that is individual trends. Then I compare the current exam data, the attainment data of a cohort, of a class over their last years or their previous terms, and then I see certain trends over time. Are they improving? Are they doing the same thing? Are they sliding down? Sometimes we compare the exam data of a particular class or a level over the previous years. That's also important. For example, grade 9 of 2020. Compare it with grade 9 of 2019 and 18 and see the trends, which would say that as a school, are we improving in grade 9 or not? And of course, other indicators of key stages, say grade 5. Now, which are our key stages? The end of primary is one key stage, grade 5. End of middle is the other key stage, and similarly grade 10 and grade 12. Subject wise, groups of learners, all this kind of comparisons and continuous monitoring is very, very important for self evaluation. Then we also gather the opinion of learners, students, especially, student meetings, student questionnaires, surveys with parents and teachers are very important information sources for us for our self-evaluation process. Then we also have a very challenging task. That is when we set targets for learners, staff, or senior team members. It's very challenging. Who likes to take these targets? But these targets, if they are achievable, then and attainable, everybody would be happy. And the sense of joy that when you achieve. For example, for a student, if you set a target, a student who is struggling, you set a target of 80%, he'll give up right from the word go. We know how we need to monitor. Similarly, targets for teachers are very important also. So it's not about the mean of the class, it's about getting the whole cohort moving up is very, very important. Evaluating the quality of the learner's personal development. Personal development would refer to the socio-economic, socio-emotional development also, their physical development, their confidence, their moral values, everything comes into personal development. And this is also very important for a school to be effective. And of course, the quality of the written work, the quality of the research work they can take, basically all kind of learning skills and the 21st century skills that we talk of need to be monitored in the school. Observing and evaluating teaching. How often, as leaders, do we actually go into a classroom to see what is happening inside the classroom? And this is very critical for self evaluation. So, subject leaders as well as school leaders need to be an integral part of that observation and evaluation of teachers. But when we say teaching, we are not really evaluating what the teacher is doing. What needs to be done at this stage is to see what are the learners able to do. I can do everything, the best pedagogical practices I can incorporate in my class. But if my students, my learners are not able to comprehend and move to understand that concept, then it's of use. I fail as a teacher. So it's not about what the teacher does. That did the teacher write the date on the blackboard? Did the teacher make the LOs clear? Did the teacher do this? It does not help. Did the learners, were the learners able to do a certain things new after the end of the lesson, is what needs to be observed in this particular lesson. And this evaluation is all about bringing improvements. And of course, reports from the school community, external agencies involved in the work of the school, and with individual learners also helps. So therefore, schools are very important. As I mean, very, very excited every time a C4 survey is happening in the school. We get so excited. Why? Because it's an external agency which will give us a certain ranking and make us known in the community. But internally, we do a lot of work to make sure that we are able to meet those requirements and those parameters. So, external driven and internal driven both have to be balanced, but it's mostly about being internally driven. Again, the role of the critical friend. When we talk of the external perspectives that we were talking of, the role of the critical friend and networking really helps for school evaluation for the purpose that a critical friend does not come into your school to find fault with you. But a critical friend is one who will see through, will help you to reflect and see where the gaps are, and will maybe help you in improvement planning also. A critical friend in the school could be like two HODs, they can be critical friends to each other. So she comes and sees my lessons, I come and go into her department to tell her exactly. But from a principal or a school leader's perspective, it's good to have some consultant or a professional who comes in and helps you to see where your school improvement plan is working and not working appropriately. And networking really helps in this. So, as I come to the end of the session, there are some key ideas that we must keep in mind. That school self evaluation is a process and not an event. An event is an inspection, a process which is continuous is school evaluation. Teachers and school leaders are the key change agents for improvement and self evaluation. They have to believe that self evaluation is required. And of course, all stakeholders need to be taken along. And the self evaluation should be conducted within a coherent framework. So you need to set parameters on this is my self evaluation framework. So there are very good models available on the net. All these models, the UAE, the Ofsted, all models are on the net. You can download them. Use aspects of it which are relevant for your school. You need not take the whole framework from them. You can take certain aspects which are very relevant. Do a school evaluation plan. If you need any help in this, we at ICSL are always available to help you to do this, the first action plan, to do a review and everything. And then we will see how we can take it forward. But make sure that whatever data that you collect should be relevant, should be based on facts, and should not be intuitive in nature. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sangeeta ma'am, for a great presentation and session. I'm sure all of us are kind of going to reflect on what you've said and take it from there. So if there were a couple of key ideas that I take from today's session, that one needs to focus. Firstly, one has to understand that it doesn't have to be an external thing. So self-evaluation is now you don't have to wait for an external uh, force or an external agency to do it. It is a ongoing process. It is not an event. So one needs to kind of work on it each and every day. And then the second point, like if I were to sum up what you said, so one needs to focus on learning for all the members, all stakeholders, and focus on results, because look at the data that you have and see where do you kind of what is it telling you, and then that should go into the feedback loop, so to say, and then again work on it and set a collaborative culture in your school. Because unless you have that, unless you can kind of be open to each other's feedback and help each other, like basically what we're talking about is a professional learning community. So if we have that, there is no way that we cannot improve, and improvement is like part of
Rather, just a second here. When you say, okay, professional learning community, it is not just within the school, even from outside the school, you seek help very often. Thank you.
Absolutely, ma'am. Absolutely. So when I said, so I was coming to that so you will have some internal, agents that would help, and also if need be from external, like Sangeeta ma'am has very nicely explained that you could, once you have your action plan in place and you feel that you need somebody to review it or somebody to support you, or there are some areas which you need a little more help with, you could always take help of an external agent. So it would be like it's a whole lot of exercise, and the whole objective, if we understand, of the exercise is not for putting it for like out there for an inspection to get a ranking or whatever. It should be for your own self. So once it is driven by that, I think it would be much more effective. So thank you. I think it was a great session. Any comments, suggestions, questions from the members? Good morning, Bala sir. Good to see you today.
So I have a question, Sangeeta. Um, so excellent presentation, and I think it seems like a very overwhelming task for a school that does not right now do self-evaluation, and if they want to start a self-evaluation process. Now, is it possible that we can create um, a self-evaluation tool which could be a sort of checklist which has, say, multiple items, and these checklists can actually be customized to meet by the school to meet their own requirements, but this becomes a starting guide or a starting point of school self-evaluation, where at a macro level maybe, and this checklist then can be used by any school to begin the process of self-evaluation. Is that possible, Sangeeta?
It is very much possible. Already in Delhi, since many of us are from Delhi, the Delhi government has already, last year, a year and a half ago, they started, they have shared checklists with schools also. But then those are very basic in nature. I think for most of the private schools, they need to go move ahead. And checklists are basically yes or no. Do we have this? Do we do this? Yes. But how well we do it, that is more important. So I think more than a checklist, a rubric will help. So we know where we are on that continuum. And then are we moving on that continuum to the next level and beyond? But if it's a checklist, are students engaged? You either say yes or no, but how well are the students engaged? That is more important. So I'm a little skeptical about checklists.
Can I share something in this regard?
Yes, Rajesh.
Rajesh.
CBSE, first of all, congratulations, Sangeeta, very well presentation. CBSE dated its circular on 7th of February 2020.
That's right.
Has already started this, on which they have not only given the first basic guideline, but also how well one should begin on self-assessment. They kept two levels. One is a self-assessment. Second level is when they will support you through peer group. I think that I can mail you, or it is available on the CBSE website. It's a very, very effective tool to begin with the self-assessment.
Okay, I just thank you. I think
Thank
that
you.
I just want to add here that I'm applying for the upgradation now. So there is a, I think 18 pages document which is only talking about this, as Hasija has just mentioned, that I have to evaluate myself on various parameters. Where do I stand? So sir, you just explain that to us. Thank you.
yeah, and also, as you said, accreditation form or even affiliation form, it has a very detailed rubric. So if you kind of, so not only does it help you, give you a path where you need to go, it also tells you what are the, basically setting expectations. So if you kind of study that, you will be able to. I mean, like all you need to, so it's already there. Nobody needs to create it. And not only by CBSE, there are different boards have got. So there is enough material available. And we as school leaders just need to do a little more research, and it's all there.
I just want to second what Dr. Hasija said, that CBSE has also brought out a school quality assessment and assurance. And this is to encourage self-evaluation, accountability, collaboration, and innovation. So one can go through that to start with. But the important thing is that one should do it honestly. I have seen schools when they create the evidence to say that yes, they're doing a good job. At the end of the day, we have to be honest with what we are doing. Thank you.
Yes, Indu ma'am, absolutely spot on. It's because if we understand for whom are we doing it.
Quality Council of India, or NABET you call it, they have also got a very extensive tool on the school assessment. If you want, I can mail that also. It's a very beautifully designed.
Yeah. So yes, Poonam ma'am, go ahead.
Yeah, I was also about to say that Quality Control of India, NABET, they carry out accreditation for 4 years, and it's an excellent idea. And they guide you also for improving your process after checking each and every single thing. So I think as a school, we can always go ahead with NABET. The cost is little bit more. It costs us around 3 lakh rupees, which was there, right, which we have to give in installments. In 4 years we have to give that, but they help you in improving your processes after observing and analyzing every single process of your school, right?
Yeah, thank you, Poonam ma'am. Bala sir has a suggestion. Yes, sir, please go ahead, Bala sir.
I've been listening patiently for some of the reactions, and there are several platforms on which quality assessment can be done. I had been the chairman of the technical committee of NABET for nearly 7 years, and we had come with an extensive document on that. Similarly, we have other models like Tata's, Malcolm Bridge model is there. There are several people who have worked on that. And I also know who have got the certifications and awards. But as I think somebody pointed out, unless otherwise we are honest about seeking quality, any amount of certificate, audit systems, whether it is self-audit or all other types of audit, will not give you the reality, because I have in person seen a number of organizations who create documents just to tell you that we meet some of these things. So to me, quality pursuit is a conscious attempt of a school to really move ahead. Well, whatever way you want to do it, whether you want to do it ISO or NABET or Malcolm Bridge, it's open, doesn't matter. But it's a journey. And unless you passionately follow the journey, right, your certifications, will be absolutely of no use.
Thank you so much, Bala sir, to put it in perspective. And we come back to it that it has to be self-driven. Yes, Sangeeta ma'am wants to add a comment.
Sangeeta, before you answer, I have a question for all of you. I mean, some of the experts who have done that. how much time on an average? Uh, because I think one of the biggest obstacles is we all feel that it will take a lot of time. So how much time on an average would a school leader need to spend on a process, on the school evaluation process on an ongoing basis? Is there a limit, like an hour a week, 1 hour a day? I mean, how does that one go about doing it? How would you do it?
Atul, when we started the inspections in the Middle East, and Bala sir would know very well, he was there in the board at that time. This whole inspection process was like a big devil sitting on your head. But today, as inspectors, when we walk into the school, it's just a normal routine. So it's just getting habitual to a certain way of life. If you make self-evaluation your way of life, I think that is what is most important. It's not about a certain parameter. I may have a parameter, but I want to exceed that, so I will set higher targets for myself. It's about self-driven goals. You have to set your goals. You don't have to wait for somebody to set your goals. You have to ensure that it is happening. And more importantly, you need to see that people who are leading this change in the school or this transformation in the school must believe in it. That belief system is very important, because mostly what happens when you get a NABET or any kind of inspection, let's call it by whatever name, we work only to meet the needs of those people. People who come from outside only see the tip of the iceberg. They can't really get into the bottom, can't reach the bottom of it. It is the people in the classrooms, the teachers, the coordinators, they have to be involved. They have to believe that they are going to be part of this learning journey and this transformation. And that is when real self-evaluation will begin in the schools.
Thank you.
So as a leader, you need to invest in your people to get them to come along with you on this journey. So it's not about one. I cannot put a timeline to it. Some nuts are hard to crack. Some will be easily with you. And how long can you sustain this level of energy? That energy has to be coming from within and not from the leader of the school. You just have to ignite it in them.
Yeah, thank you, Sangeeta ma'am. I also wanted to answer that. So you said that how much time does the school leader need to invest? It's not about the school leader. It's about every stakeholder. It's about my students being able to assess themselves that am I able to do that? So it has to be, as Sangeeta said, it has to be part of your everyday exercise. The teacher, when she creates her lesson plan, she has to go back and reflect on it, that this is what I wanted to achieve. Did I do it or not? So we do it as an ongoing process. So I don't put any extra time for it. It's an ongoing process. So when I'm looking at something, when I'm going through on a walkthrough in a class, I'm looking at it. So it's part of it. It's built into the system. It cannot be done, that today 2 hours I will spend. Yes, you will have weekly meetings with your departmental heads to review what is going well. You will have meetings with your parents. You will have meetings with your teachers. You will get feedback from your children. So all that will be there. So you cannot kind of put it in a time bound thing. It has to be just a way of life. So that is how it will work. And I think it is very doable if you kind of decide to do it and do it because you want to do it and not because of an external pressure. Then it would go better. I think Bala sir wants to add something, I can see.
2 lines. One, quality is like breathing, right? One has to breathe quality inside the campus. So, and second is, it's not that the leader breathes quality. Right from the gatekeeper to the management, every single entity in the school system has to breathe quality. So unless otherwise, quality is a conscious, integral effort in all dimensions of the school, you will not be doing that. Therefore, it's not whether 1 minute or 1 day or 1 month, doesn't matter. But overall, if you are to develop this kind of a consciousness, it takes an year plus to set the environment right. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Just to add to that, one, of course, there will be templates, for self-assessment and all that they create. Every school will have a different thing, but some of us who are using can also share that. And if it is of any use, and enough is also available. Yes, Sangeeta ma'am.
So when this journey of self-evaluation has to begin, you need not take up the whole school at the same time. You can choose a couple of parameters to begin it. And most important, student learning. Let's begin from that. Take it on to keep expanding it as one thing settles down. Take it to the next level or one more parameter. So the criteria can keep increasing. They're never ending. And like in the Middle East, when we started, we did only with student learning. We used to start on the school environment. And then today, we take it to such depth that how are the KG children doing? So the kindergarten inspector is different, then special needs is different, the gifted and talented. This year, in 2019, we took it up to the level of what kind of support the school provide to students after they leave the school also, for their admissions and things like that. So it all depends on, how much you want to expand into the quality spectrum. But start with a couple of parameters, and then you will see how enjoyable the journey of learning in the school is going to be.
Okay, so I think we can have discussions a little later now, because we have already have eaten into our case study time, and we can always come back to it. Meenakshi ma'am, are you ready with your case? And if it can be pulled out, and so that everyone can see it and think about it, and we can brainstorm them. Yeah, please go ahead and explain this.
Good morning, everyone. This is a case of a senior teacher in my school. She is basically a librarian. She is qualified for the post and is working in the school for the last 25 years. The problem is that she is kind of reluctant in doing any kind of work that is assigned to her. Specifically as a librarian, it's a prime job is to make the children interested in reading, coming to the library, getting the books, get into the reading habits, and this is what. But the problem with her is that she's never found in the library. That is the first thing. And she doesn't even encourage. Encouraging is a different thing. She would not even issue the books to the students on one pretext or the other. We have tried all our level best. We have counseled her. We have even given her some memos, some warnings. All works have been done, but every time she will find some excuse or the other. Initially, I found that there are certain family issues that she is dealing with. So I tried to make her sit with me. I counseled her. I tried to, at times, I found maybe she is not getting any kind of motivation for her work. So I even motivated her. I gave her some kind of good, words in the library, in the assembly, some appreciation for even a minute thing. Even if she would have come, I would ask her to get some new book. She would get it. I would announce it in the library, in the assembly. But even then, I found that she is not ready to work. That zeal to work, or that somewhere from inside she's lagging that. And every time when I talk to her, she would have an excuse. And if I will just tell her with kind of little hard words or little kind of warning, she would start crying. And then again there will be a scene created in my room. So again I have to counsel her and tell her that you have to work, you are here to work. And she at times shows a very diplomatic kind of an attitude, because her daughter is also studying in the same school. So even with the other members of the staff, she doesn't have a good rapport. And she is good only with those who are teaching her daughter. So that kind of manipulation is also there. Before the exam, she would reach to the teacher concerned, please help my daughter, take care of her. And the teachers would come to me, ma'am, she is saying all this. So there's a lot of uneasiness in the the other teachers also who are working with her. And I found that this particular lady is not ready to work. I have tried all my level best. Even the management knows very well about it. Even they have counseled her. My manager had come to school many times. and he had counseled her that you have to work, you're in the school, you have to take care of the children. And every time I'll be giving her a long list of books, the new publications, and I'll ask her, the list would have come from you as a librarian, and I'm giving it to you now, place an order for it, find out where these are available. And then again she would come with one pretext or the other. I tried, but I'm not getting any response. So this kind of inactiveness has I don't know why it has come to her, and I'm not able to find a solution to it. So I would request all of you to please suggest me some ways how to handle her.
Yeah, thank you, Meenakshi ma'am. So it's open to the house. Anybody wants to kind of give suggestions or ask questions first to Meenakshi? Anything else that will add to the case?
I think, let me just say a few words. I think this case is not just about the librarian, but we have to look at it from a more abstract way in terms of underperforming faculty member. So in this particular case, it's the librarian, but it could be the maths teacher also, and it could be a sports, cricket coach also. So I think one is dealing with the specifics of this one particular person, but also developing and thinking about, and every school has underperforming teachers and staff members. So how do we deal with the underperforming staff and underperforming teacher who's reluctant to change? I think if we can discuss that, that'll be a wonderful discussion. That's why I found this case study very intriguing in nature, because all of us deal with such people on a daily basis.
Yeah, thank you. I think Indu ma'am wanted to share her thoughts, please. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. My first question is, how old is the school? Because that is very important. And secondly, since when has the teacher been teaching in that school? See, the school has to set the standards. The school should have taken care of all this. We have to keep working on the mindset of everyone. In schools which have been there since long, this is a normal practice. We've been here 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and they become non-performers. You can do nothing about it. But doesn't mean that we just sit quiet. We, in spite of all letters or anything, even if the person is not willing to listen, either you give her another job that she can do. In this case, if it's a librarian, she's not performing, either give her some other work to do, or if the school has chain of school, then you transfer her, but that means nothing. Or I would say take harsh measures and take legal opinion, because you cannot carry on with baggage, and it affects the entire environment in the school. And today to run good schools is tough. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Indu ma'am. The school is 41 years old, and the teacher is here serving for the last 25 years. As you say, this is a case of such kind of people who are for a long time and now they become ineffective with the time or whatever it is. Yeah. The problem is, I had a word with my management taking some legal, action against her. But as you know, with all the legalities under which we all public schools are bound, even if we give a charge sheet or we suspend, already there is one case in the court for which we are, having a lot of problem, in which we took action on one of the similar kind of a teacher that we suspended her. Then she went to the high court, then she went to the tribunal. Now the case is going on. So the management also doesn't want to get involved into all those legalities where we have to spend huge amount of money in going for the, these legal issues. So the thing is that, and then we don't have chain of schools. So that is the only one institution that we have. So we can't transfer her also. But yes, then again, giving her some other work, again, when a person is not even going, she is not teaching in the class. Her job is just to be in the library and take care of the library. And she is qualified for that. And she has been, because maybe the thing is that she doesn't want to change with the time, because now we have the entire digital library in the school. and she is reluctant for that. I have sent her n number of times for the trainings. I have given her a help hand also. There's a assistant librarian also. Basically, she is the one who is taking care of the entire work instead of her. But this particular teacher is not ready to budge from the comfort zone that she is living in.
Madam, I understand the situation that you are in. I find we still have to find solutions to it. One just cannot say I'm helpless. It doesn't work out. You already have an assistant librarian. Let her play the lead role and make her passive or make her realize everyday counsel her, give her work so that she starts moving, but don't give up. I know it's tough. Getting legal opinion is fine, but you don't want to land up in more cases. But just be at it, because we have to prepare them to move with the times. Otherwise, we'll continue to repair them and it becomes a problem. I think just be at it. You know best the situation you are in. Try to find some solutions to it.
I just want to respond one thing. Can I?
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Yes.
Atul, you hit the nail on the head saying that this is not an issue of a single teacher. But with my personal interventions to a number of schools, I think there's a pattern across the country. In most schools, every school has got not one, but a couple of teachers who are unwilling to change. One is the fear for change, right? Because they are feeling insecure that the future may hold something which will expose them of their inadequacies. And I think this is one of the psychological roadblocks that many people suffer, not only the librarian, but a few other senior teachers, especially if they have crossed 20 years of service. But it's more so in the case of a librarian, because in most of the schools, we have not treated the librarian as what we should have. We have treated them more like storekeepers rather than librarians as human resource managers. I think that is one problem. The second is that psychologically putting across, there's something called learned helplessness. Now, learned helplessness is a psychological syndrome which comes over a period of time when you have done a particular job for a couple of years, and then after that you feel that I'm doing it perfectly because the system accepts it, then why should I change, right? So this has been done very well. As a matter of fact, a lot of workshops across the world is going on, learned helplessness. And even some principals are suffering from this kind of a learned helplessness syndrome. So what I think is that in this particular case, it is a counseling which is important, it is facilitation which is important. As a matter of fact, you must convert the librarian into a learner, right? You must instruct the librarian to give her one book, two books, new books over there, ask her to bring what are over there. You ask her to go to the market for 2 days, find out which are the books available, and then you have to create better engagement with her, intellectual engagement with her. Probably she has felt that she is not important in the school system, and that's one of the reasons that she feels comfort zone. I think you'll have to deal it with better engagement. Thank you.
Thank you, Bala sir, and thank you, Atul.
I just want to add one more thing, Dr. Gupta. If maybe have you tried to incentivize the teacher for good performance, or maybe even try to explicitly state that she'll get some incentive for improving the work? Have you tried that?
Yes, I have tried many times. As I told that many times I've given appreciation, even if she does a little, work that I give her, and publicly also in front of the entire staff, also in staff meetings also. Because I remember once I asked her to find out a book for me, though I knew that the book on which shelf the book is lying. Even then I asked her to get that book for me, and she got it, and I praised her. So the effect is only maybe for a day or two. Again, after that she's at the back.
No, so that might be because sometimes what happens is we feel that appreciation is a form of incentive for a particular person because we seek that form of incentive. But I think most people who are working in our team, appreciation may not be the incentive that she is looking for. So there are different incentives, right? I mean, incentive could be a day off, for her. Incentive could be even monetary incentive. I think 90% of people are working for monetary incentive. So instead of paying the cost as a management, instead of paying the cost of going through a legal tussle, okay, maybe it will be better to say that, look, if you improve yourself, we'll send you and your daughter through to a 3-day vacation in Goa or Masuri. So you might actually be able to, so don't think of it as a bribe, it's an incentive to say that, look, if you work hard, we have this wonderful holiday package for you and your daughter. See, it works very well in the corporate setting. So where I'm coming from is these kind of incentives work very well in a corporate setting. And I wonder why they would not work. I mean, doctors in a hospital get vacation packages if they work really well. So I think maybe we need to look at some form of incentive, because I'm looking at Costner's, 6 steps to change. And which is mentioned on page 38 of the training manual. So this is the manual that I'm looking at right now on this page. And what I can see in this particular case is that everything else seems to be fitting. But once we have given her some incentive and we sit down with her to create an action plan, motivation is very good, counseling is very good, but unfortunately, it has a limitation. But when you get down to action planning, concrete steps that need to be taken this month, and then the next steps, that need to be taken after a month. And then you start monitoring those action plans and smart action plans. So incentive with very clear action planning may work. I'm not sure. So I'm adding that may work.
Yeah, Sangeeta ma'am had something. Then I also want to add a couple
I
of points.
also have a suggestion to add.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, this is Kavita. She was not
Yeah.
on video, but
Yeah,
we
yeah.
can hear you, Kavita.
I don't know. For some reason, my video was disabled. So that's the reason I'm not. Anyway,
Okay.
I have experienced this thing before. And the only option I had was to kind of counsel the teacher to go on a voluntary retirement. And as you said that the teacher's been there for 25 years, I'm assuming she's old enough to kind of accept it. This seems the most amicable solution, because getting into a legal wrangle helps nobody. And counseling, as you've already mentioned, you've tried it. As a last resort, this can definitely be taken up. And I've seen it works out quite satisfactorily.
Well, she won't go till her daughter is in the school.
I don't know. If she's confident her daughter's looked after, she probably will not mind it. So again, it's the environment, the comfort that she's given. I think if the counseling hasn't worked in helping her improve, perhaps the counseling can be helped in making her move. That's the only, because as ma'am said, Indu ma'am very rightly, something like this, if you keep on putting up with it, it spoils the environment for rest of the teachers also.
Ma'am, she would not go. The one thing is that her daughter is having some physical problem. She's not a normal child. And
Okay.
secondly, the thing is that she is a regular employee and she's getting 7th pay commission salary with all the perks and benefits. So there is no point in leaving, and she has been here for 5 years. She's
Has she been given regular written memos, and they
Yes,
have been all filed up in a report?
She has been. It's all there in her file, in her ACRs and all that. But again, the thing is that the management and I personally don't feel like going into the litigations and all that, because that is not a solution to the thing. I personally have counseled her many times. I have even talked to her friends. She has a few friends in the school. So what I have done, I have called her friends and I have asked them to please talk to her. What exactly is her problem, so that we can work on the problem. At times, once I came to know that she feels that she is, as rightly sir has said, that she has been ignored by the others. So what I started giving her attention. In early morning, when I'm standing outside near the gate, when the people come, when they enter, I used to compliment her. I started complimenting her. Today you are looking very bright. Wow, you're looking so fresh. You are wearing such a nice color. But even that doesn't, when it comes to work, it doesn't help. So, yes, ma'am.
So couple of things. So Sangeeta ma'am, you go ahead first, because I also wanted to react to this and also to what Atul said. I had a few thoughts. Yes.
So just a thing, because like everybody agrees that she feels neglected in the school. And these compliments are often taken as superficial compliments, or they're thinking, ab humko ye principal makhan lagane ki koshish kariye. They also use that also in a very negative way. Best, I feel, is to involve her in activities which may interest her, that you will have to explore in activities beyond the library, to make her an integral part of the school as a whole, not just isolated with library and library related activities like procuring books or something like that. Those are very trivial things. Basically, I think, we need to invoke a feeling for the children, for the school as a large, and maybe invoke a feeling of self-respect in her, and that will be a little difficult task to begin with. But that is what will ultimately, you will may have a winner with you. When you can do that, you will have a long-term winning, with her in that. So supposing something like an annual day, supposing it's coming up, so the designing of costumes, there will be a team. Let her be leading that team. You know that there will be people, your stalwarts, who have been doing it and doing a good job. So take them into confidence and say, so every meeting they hold, they have her, get her to research into costumes. So she has to use her library resources to research into the costumes and all. So that way, you will have a very win-win situation, I think. And once that feeling gets invoked, that I'm a part of the larger school, that is when, you will see that she will start being more responsible towards her core job also.
Thank you. I think you've hit it on the head, so to say. It's not about the librarian. You can see a demotivated employee for whatever reason. I just wanted to ask you, how long have you been in the school, ma'am, as a principal?
I've been for the last 9 years.
Okay, so sometimes it happens. I've also seen it personally and very other places also. So when a new principal comes in, so the old employees will sometimes have resistance. And when you bring in changes very quickly, you have ideas, you want to kind of change the system and do. So sometimes it backfires, and you have to be sensitive. I'm not saying you were not, but I'm just kind of sharing with you to be kind of cognizant of it. So they feel, here is a new person who's coming in. We've been here long enough, even before you kind of got your degree, and you are coming to tell us what is right and what is. So staff engagement has to be done very sensitively, and every employee has a positive. So very nicely, Sangeeta ma'am, Bala sir has said, so you have to find that one thing that she's good at, and no point paying personal compliments. Like, I would take an offense if somebody would kind of say this, there is more to me, there's more substance to me. So, and then what Atul said, I kind of disagree with that somebody who's not performing and you tell that employee that, if you do this, that's a job. So I would definitely, because there's a difference between praise and appreciation. So, there are some things which you are supposed to do. So if I appreciate you for that, then actually I'm making you I'm lowering the standard. So there are certain things. So if she brings a book which she can see, and this works with children and this works with everyone. If she sees the book is right there and you are praising her for bringing the book, you don't need to do it. But if she goes beyond the call of duty, if it is something extra that a person has done, that has to be appreciated, not something regular. So if I go and teach in a class, well, that is what I'm supposed to do. So if somebody kind of starts appreciating that, that is, actually lowering the bar. The second thing, so there is something that you have to do individually with this teacher. So it could be a librarian, it could be a math teacher, and believe you me, all of us have these employees. Okay, so you're not in isolation. So, some are worse than the others, but every school has them. The second thing is about engagement of your whole staff. So again, you have to, and it won't happen overnight. She's been there for 35 years. So you cannot change it over a few months. it will take that much time, so you will have to have a multi-pronged approach. So your whole staff, when they are engaged, you kind of keep having this. You have it every week, every Friday, or you have it twice a month. So you have those team building exercises, and slowly you will find a bit of a change. And when you find that change, that is the time to appreciate and say that, well, I'm so happy. And also reach out to her as a person, but not like talking about like, okay, I can do this for you, but on a humanitarian ground. Okay, but then again, it's a fine line, because you can't bring that personal thing. So those, that it is up to you how you set the expectation, that this is what you are expected to do. Yes, on a human angle, I agree with you and I can appreciate what is going, but this is what. And so you have to set that standard for your entire staff, and it has to be a continuous process. The last thing I want to say is, sometimes what happens, Bala sir said it very nicely, that it's the fear, like doesn't want to be exposed. Maybe she doesn't know how to do it. So sometimes it's nice to call her separately and say that, are you having this difficulty, can I support you? So just by keeping her assistant, okay, you have solved one problem to ensure that your school is working fine. But she's feeling maybe threatened again and insecure. So also empowering her. Maybe she needs a IT related kind of a training. Maybe she needs something else. So specific to her, what kind of a training will empower her? Okay. So I know it seems like an idealistic solution, but that is why we are on this forum. So it's very easy. I'm telling you, if the day you decide really want to throw her out, but is that what you want to do? It's a disengaged kind of a thing, and the whole system is responsible for it, I feel personally. So let's, before we give it up, let's kind of work on it and see that how you take it up as a challenge. Like if I were in your place, I would say that this is my challenge, I'm going to make it happen. So when you do that, you will find ways to engage. And even if it may not be 100% turn around, even if it is 20%, isn't that something that you achieve? Okay, so I think that those were my thoughts on it. I think Guru Prem sir, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was working with a bank for the last 34 years, and I faced these type of situations very often. And in banks, though, legal formalities, you can't throw anyone out from the system because the government system. But the only thing, you can engage her somewhere else and give her importance which she feels like, not the goody things only. She is somewhere depressed and facing mid-career blues, which is difficult to handle for some people. But if we work like Balasa said, the mid-career blues everybody face. Somebody wants to get promotion but not willing to take responsibility, and then cursing, नहीं मेरा इतना दिन हो गए, मैं क्यों नहीं करूँगा, मुझे क्यों नहीं promotion मिलती. So this thing is happening with her. And this started somewhere back. When it started, so now the chronic patient, she is a chronic patient. You have to take a lot of time to deal with her, because in system now you can't throw it out. You can't throw. So you have to work with her. Anyhow, you have to work. You can change her portfolio sort of thing. Ask her to do something else if she can. But you have to do long efforts to handle her. And
okay,
that
so
is the only emotional way out. Otherwise, no way out is there.
Okay, so we are running out of time. Amarjeet sir, quick.
Can I make one quick remark?
Yeah. Bala sir first, yeah.
You see, rewards and appreciation for a poor performing, non-performing, inadequate person might send bad, wrong signals to others in terms of performance. So I think we need to handle it firmly, right? But not rudely, firmly, but not by appreciation.
I agree. I completely agree with you. Yes, Amarjeet sir.
Sir, one suggestion. that have we talked to her that why she is behaving the way she is behaving? Because I think once in the office heart-to-heart talk is done, she might come out, okay, yeah, this is my problem. Instead of taking a circumventions route that asking the friend that what is the problem, how can I help her? No, I think principal should talk directly to that person and find out the reason as to why she is doing like that. I think that way some solution can be found out along with others, whatever we have discussed today. Thank you, ma'am.
Sir, I have already had a word with her face to face, because I'm a kind of a person who has a very open kind of a relationship with all my colleagues, all my staff members. So I had a face to face, heart to heart talk with her. Initially, I made her to sit in my room with a closed door, and I asked her what exactly is the problem on which we both can work together, which can be sorted out. She says, I don't have any problem, people take me negatively, so that is, then she had some personal family problems, which as much as I could with my limitations, I could counsel her. She had one issue about her daughter, so I made her understand that nobody is going to take any personal grudges on your daughter. That makes sure, being head of the school, I can give you that assurance that your daughter will be taken as a normal student in the school, and which I made sure that this will not happen, because every time there is a politics going on in the staff. So I said, this will never happen, because we personally believe in giving equal education to every child in the school. But the thing is that whenever she will come to me, she will talk to me, she will have no issues. She will say, I'm doing my best. And when I ask her, do you need any particular training? See, the thing is that I have got a software person with me. He will spend 2 days with you. You can work with her. She will say, I know everything. And then when the person will go, she will say, the machine is not working. So that is a kind of, it's not that I have not talked to her. I had a word with her. It's not only once, number of times. So when it didn't work, then I reached to her friends. Maybe there is something which is not getting open to me.
Sure.
I just want to clarify one comment that I made about incentives. So it was not to reward her current level of performance. Okay. So obviously, as Bala sir and Radha said, that you cannot reward lack of performance. So what I actually meant was that you set her performance standards, and upon achievement of those standards, a reward can be offered, because everybody has different things that they appreciate in life. Some people appreciate rewards, some people appreciate cognitive development and appreciation, etc. So if she performs to your level of satisfaction, so for example, if she starts using the digital library system, the electronic library system, within the next 6 months, then there could be a dinner for her and her family that's sponsored by you or the school. So I think these kind of things do work in human interaction very well in almost any organization that I have dealt with. So that might be something that you want to try, but definitely don't reward her for not performing.
Okay, thank you. So we are out of time completely. Any last quick questions, ideas? Rita, ma'am, you have joined for the first time. Did you have anything you wanted to say?
Yeah, and I would like to welcome Dr. Rita Duggal for joining us as a visitor on behalf of ICSL and all the other members. And thank you for coming in, Dr. Duggal.
Thank you so much for letting me join in this session. I was very impressed by the depth in which Sangeeta ma'am had talked about improving the performances of all the stakeholders in the school. And because I do not have any children who have been going to school for the past 20 years and they being overseas, so I had no idea about what all is going on in the schools as to how to improve them. So very impressed, very impressed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, we come to the end of today's session. Thank you so much. Meenakshi ma'am, my last this thing to you is you are doing a great job. Just continue. doing it, and don't lose heart. So there are days, and there are people, and you just keep doing your best, and I'm sure she'll get better at it. Okay, and thank you everyone for joining in.